How do you deal with the pressure of trying to look hot or a certain way as a personal trainer? I was thinking about this today because I was listening to a podcast from some economics and they were talking about GDP, and that's the gross domestic product. And it's that we measure the success of a country's economy based on growth, right? But they were talking about how growth is measured by the economic potential of an item. For example, if I have a tree in my front yard, alone, that tree does not have an economic value that the government deems valuable or necessary to keep track of. However, if I chop it down into lumber and sell it, that becomes something that has monetary value that the government wants to keep track of and thinks is important. And that makes me think of muscle growth and what it means to be involved with fitness, because I think so many people think like the end game of fitness is to look hot, because that is a measurable thing that a lot of people give a shit about. However, no one really talks about the idea of like, what is the value of feeling good in the morning? Like, what is the value of waking up, going for a walk, and clearing your mind? And I know that, of course, like people have brought this up before. This is not a new concept, but it is not something that is measurable on a scale or in a way that we can kind of like show an algorithm or get likes for. So, to answer your question, as a personal trainer, there is a lot of pressure on me to look like the product I'm selling works, right? Because that's just how the cookie crumbles. But at the same time, I try to remember that despite muscle growth and like weight gain and aesthetic being the measured goal for a lot of aesthetics, for a lot of, what's the word? Like it's a lot of people's end game, right? That is not necessarily how life works. And just because that's the measure that a lot of people use, that doesn't mean that it is the thing that necessarily needs to be measured.